Good evening and welcome to the August 21st, 2019 legislative session of the Town Board. I apologize for us running a bit late this evening. We had a couple of items that we were working on from a technical standpoint, my end, not our team's end. I'll officially call the meeting to order. I'll ask everyone to please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And I'll ask for a roll call.
Cole.
Here.
LaFountain.
Here.
Metzler.
Here.
Moore.
Here.
Quinn is absent.
Okay, thank you. We will begin with communications and announcements, and we'll start with our town clerk.
The school tax bills will be in the mail on Friday, August 30th. The first day of collection will be Tuesday, September 2nd. For your convenience, please feel free to take advantage of our payment lockbox at the east side entrance of the town hall or visit the town clerk tax receiver's office between 9 and 5, Monday through Friday, to make your payment. You may also make a full payment of taxes at any M&T Penfield branch.
Great, thank you. Mrs. Metzler.
I have two announcements this evening. First, just a reminder that on Saturday, September 14th, from 7:45 a.m. to 12 p.m., the towns of Penfield and Webster are again partnering with Monroe County to host a household hazardous waste drop-off. This year's event will be held at the Webster DPW Garage at 1005 Picture Parkway. This is an appointment service only, and you can make your appointment at monroecounty.gov/HHW or by calling Penfield DPW at 340-8710 before Friday, September 13th at 3 p.m. Also, this fall, I am pleased to be facilitating a daytime education at recreation, or DEAR program, called Anatomy of a Criminal Trial. Come to the community center with me for a behind-the-scenes look at the many rituals associated with criminal justice. From arraignment to jury selection to a trial verdict, many things can happen during a criminal trial, many of which could surprise you. Classes will run on Tuesdays, September 17th through October 1st, beginning at 12 noon. This course is free to the public, but please register online at penfieldrec.org or through a registration form located at the Recreation Office. DEAR continues to bring wisdom to lifetime learners in Penfield by offering new and interesting classes. I hope to see old friends and meet new and interesting people at my course, The Anatomy of a Criminal Trial. Thank you.
Excellent. Sounds exciting. I have two announcements. First, the town offices will be closed on Monday, September 2nd, in observance of Labor Day. The library will be closed Sunday the 1st and Monday the 2nd. They will reopen normal business hours on Tuesday, September 3rd. My second item is with regards to Senators Rich Funke and Joe Robach are holding a free community electronics recycling day this coming Saturday. So that's Saturday the 24th from 9 to noon. It's going to be held at 208 Eastman Avenue, Rochester 14652. It's a Kodak Park parking lot 42. They will accept up to 2 CRTs, TVs with no exceptions at no charge. This is an opportunity to dispose of those large TVs, desktops, consoles, and other electronics at no cost. For information, please visit sunking.com. That's SUNNKING.com. Mr. Moore.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. The last amphitheater event of the season will conclude with the annual Taste in the Blues event on Saturday, September 14th, the Veterans Memorial Park. This event will be held from noon to 4 p.m. and includes a free chili judging contest, Genesee Brew House beer samplings, and music performance on the Kiwanis stage by Steve Grills and the Roadmasters. Also in conjunction with Taste in the Blues event, Dog Day Out will start at noon. Bring the whole family to this event, including the dog. There will be games for the dogs and their humans, do-it-yourself healthy dog treats, and more. Dogs must be vaccinated, friendly, and on a leash for this event. Owners are required to pick up after their dogs. If you need any additional information on Taste in the Blues or Dogs Day Out, please visit penfieldrec.org. Thank you.
Great. Mrs. Cole.
Okay, I have one announcement. The Friends of the Penfield Public Library will be holding their annual used book sale from Wednesday, September 11th through Saturday, September 14th at the Penfield Community Center on Baird Road. This is the 43rd year of the book sale, and it's all the proceeds will be used to help the Penfield Library be the best it can be.
All right, great. Thank you very much. We will move on to public participation. There are two ways to do that. First, if you're here in the audience, you can address the board on any matter at the podium. You can log on at penfield.org, or you can call in at 340-8771, and we can address any matter that you have. And then you can also do that at the end of the agenda. Seeing no one at this time to address the board on any matter, we will move on to additions and deletions to the agenda. Is there any additions or deletions to tonight's agenda? Seeing none, we have the July 17th, 2019 minutes in front of us. Would entertain a motion of approval for those minutes.
I move that the minutes of July 17th be approved.
I will second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion on those minutes? Seeing none, those roll call vote, please.
Cole?
Aye.
LaFountain?
Aye.
Metzler?
Aye.
Moore?
Aye.
4 ayes.
Great. Thank you. Has the board, the town attorney, or the town clerk received any petitions since the last time we got together?
No.
Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to resolutions by function. We'll start with law and finance, please.
Budget transfers in the general fund.
Moved.
Second.
Whereas the Director of Public Works requires a transfer in the Parks account for a new playground project at Harris Whalen Park. Whereas the Building Department head requires a transfer to the Fire Marshal account for uniforms, and whereas the Town Board desires to have an up-to-date budget in relation to current income and expenditures. Now be it resolved that the Penfield Town Board hereby desires to have an up-to-date budget in relation to current income and expenditures, and be it resolved the 2019 budget transfer be approved from park maintenance for $9,841 to park playground projects for $9,841, and finance conferences in the amount of $575 to fire marshal uniforms for $575. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Further discussion? Seeing no further discussion, roll call vote, please.
Cole?
Aye.
LaFountain?
Aye.
Metzler?
Aye.
Moore?
Aye.
4 ayes. Authorization for the purchase and installation of an industrial natural gas generator for the Penfield Community Center.
Moved.
Second.
Whereas the town board has identified the need to replace an outdated and undersized generator with a new natural gas generator capable of powering the systems necessary to provide uninterrupted services to our residents, and whereas there is a generator available for purchase utilizing the New York State multiple award contract, and whereas the town board approves appropriation of $104,000 from the unassigned general fund balance as an amendment to the 2019 budget for the purchase of the generator. Now therefore be it resolved that the following 2019 budget amendment be approved. Revenue appropriated fund balance of $104,000. Appropriations for building equipment and improvements, $104,000.
Great, thank you. Further discussion? See no further discussion, roll call vote, please.
Cole?
Aye.
LaFountain?
Aye.
Metzler?
Aye.
Moore?
Aye.
4 ayes. Authorization for supervisor to sign recreation contracts.
So moved.
Second.
This resolution authorizes the town supervisor to sign one recreation contract, and it's with AMP Fitness for adult and youth fitness programs.
Okay, very good. Further discussions? Again, seeing none, I'd ask for a roll call vote, please.
Cole?
Aye.
LaFountain?
Aye.
Metzler?
Aye.
Moore?
Aye.
4 ayes.
All right, that concludes our resolutions. I'll ask the board, any old business to come before the board this evening? Seeing none, is there any new business to come before the board this evening? Again, seeing none. This brings us to our second public participation. Tonight in the House, we have representatives from NEQUAL, that's the Northeast Quadrant Advanced Life Support, and the Webster Emergency Medical Service, WEAMS. And we have the president with us, Ahmed Mustaf, and Mike Pope is with us in the House as well. They're going to give us a little bit of an update because I'm not sure a lot of our residents know, but NEQUAL's as well as the Webster Emergency Services, they cover a piece of Penfield, probably a little bit more than what some of us might realize. And Ahmed is going to just give us a little overview of where they stand. This looks like something that we should do on some more of a regular basis, and we look forward to that. And with that, I'm going to turn the floor over to you and give us an update of what's going on in the world of emergency medical services.
All right. Thank you, Supervisor LaFountain, and good evening, town board members. It's a pleasure, and as Supervisor LaFountain said, I'm sorry we have not done this more often. Northeast Quadrant has been around for 33 years almost this year. We are the advanced life support service for the town of Webster, the northern part of Penfield. We cover down to Embury Road, and then the western half of Wayne County. So we have a pretty big territory. And for those of you who don't know what advanced life support is, we are the paramedics that meet the basic ambulances in communities. So we interface with West Webster Ambulance. We interface with the newly founded Webster Emergency Medical Service in the town of Webster. We used to interface regularly with the Penfield Ambulance before they went ALS, but we still back them up in the evenings when they don't have ALS up all the time, and the Wayne County services, which don't regularly have ALS. So the concept is that the ambulance is the transport vehicle. It has usually 2 people on board in an ideal situation, and they provide the initial care to a patient. So, your airway management, your breathing, your circulation, things like that. But when you need advanced level care, so you need medicines, when you need intubation, which is managing your airway, when you need narcotics, when you need opioid overdoses and anaphylactic reactions and cardiac events, paramedics have to come along. And, what you will show statistically is the fly car model is a very effective model because in Monroe-Livingston County, so in, 2 very big counties in upstate New York, there are only about 350 paramedics. You take one like me who works one night a week, right, and spread that out over a lot of people, the actual load of paramedics is very small. And so what you get to do is when you have a majority of your calls are basic and you don't need a paramedic, they go with the basic ambulances, of which we have many more. And then when you have the higher priority, more significant calls, you send a paramedic. Doesn't always work perfectly, right? Sometimes there are more ALS calls than we have ALS fly cars for. And so we've got a very nice system, right? In the town of Penfield, you have Penfield Ambulance, which backs us up in the north. We have Arundequoit, which comes over from the other side. And, between the 3 agencies, we collaborate and cooperate very well together to make sure that our communities are served at a level, I think, unparalleled in the state. And, when I say that, let me give you some data. So in 2017, the Northeast Quadrant Advanced Life Support responded to 3,001 calls. So that's 8 a day. We only mutualated 173 of those, so we covered 94% of our own calls. That's pretty awesome, right? The standards are in the 90s. In 2018, we rose that number to 3,159 calls. Now that number went up as Penfield Ambulance still added ALS, so we weren't coming into Penfield as much. And our call coverage went up to 94.8%. In 2019 through June, we are at 1,588 calls, so we're going to break through 3,200 calls in a minute. We're at 93.6% call coverage, and the reason it goes down a little bit is we get seasonal variation. February is a very busy month for us, so it balances off at the end of the year when the call volume gets a little bit slower. Through June, we've had 4 cardiac arrest saves, we've had 9 overdose saves, and 3 RSI responses. So RSI...
And that's just, so I just want to underscore that.
That's just the first half of the year.
That's just the first half of the year.
Right. And, I can tell you the OD saves will go up because a few weeks ago I did 2 in the town of Penfield at the same house, same person, 10 hours apart. So we will add 25% to that number by myself in July. RSI is an interesting skill, and I like to tell people about it because NEQ has some of the busiest paramedics for that. So RSI is rapid sequence induction, and what that basically means is for someone that needs to have their airway managed but still has a reflex to gag so they can't get a tube in their throat, specially skilled and trained paramedics, of which there are a few dozen in Monroe Livingston County, a few dozen, can basically paralyze you, sedate you, and then pass the tube. It is a skill you do not want to be learning on the job. You've got to be a high-volume paramedic. And of the few dozen in the county, 3 of them are in NEQ. So we have a disproportionately high number, and because we cover such a broad geography, we do disproportionately more than any other agency with our medics. We had a call not too long ago where one of our paramedics was called to Honeyway Falls to perform RSI. So it is a very important skill, and we're very pleased to have that level of service here. You know, I will talk a little bit about Webster EMS. It covers mutual aid to the West Webster Fire Department, and so it's relevant because West Webster covers a big part of Penfield on the west side. Hillhaven, Walmart, Wegmans, the dialysis center, Bay of Wind. So we do a lot of mutual aid into there. And just to give you a concept of, you know, that agency, if you remember, was just founded in 2016 October. So we're just hitting some of our third-year anniversary coming up. In 2017, their first full year of operation, we covered 2,496 calls with a 96.1% call coverage. In 2018, we covered 3,022 calls with a 96.1% call coverage. And in 2019, we're already at 1,600 calls with 95% call coverage. So we were, until Penfield started staffing a second overnight ambulance, the only ambulance service in Monroe County, our side of Monroe County, that had 2 basic ambulances up all the time. We put one up on Donovan Street and one off 5 Mile Line Road by Ridge Road, which cut our response times down dramatically and allows us to have a higher call coverage. One of the things that we talk about, and if you ever heard any of the CON hearings when the ambulance was coming, is just covering a call doesn't matter, right? Our competing commercial agency said, well, we can cover 100% of the calls. I said, sure you can if I wait 4 hours, right? If I'm laying on the floor, I want you there in minutes. And so the Monroe Livingston Regional EMS Council has some standards that they placed, and we have started benchmarking ourselves monthly against those. And it's interesting. So for response time in an urban suburban environment, which is what we are, the ALS first intercept should be on scene within 10 minutes, 90% of the time. NEQ is on scene 93% of the time, and WEMS 93.5. For a priority 2, which is the next lower call, we should be on scene within 12 minutes, 90% of the time. We're on scene 95.2%. For a basic call, so just a basic ambulance, priority 3, you should be there within 17 minutes. We are there 99.1% of the time in less than 15. We couldn't even get to 17, didn't exist. And then for BLS priority 4s, it's a 25-minute allowed time. We couldn't get it. We were under 12 minutes 100% of the time. So why does this matter? Because waiting for mutual aid to come from the city is never going to do that. Waiting for mutual aid to come from East Rochester, waiting for mutual aid to come from Wayne County, doesn't matter. This is why the town of Webster got Webster EMS situated, and it's why NEQ is so vital to the community. This is about time, right? People say, when should an ambulance or a first responder be there? How long can you hold your breath? How long do you want to be sitting with a broken hip? How long do you want to be having your airway closed after a bee sting? How long do you want, we have 2 choking calls going on right now. How long do you want your friend who accidentally overdosed to wait for Narcan or CPR or an airway to survive, right? This is a game of minutes, right? Other first response, 2, 3, 4 minutes, are you going to save or lose something? Maybe not. This, you have minutes. 4 minutes, the brain starts to die. 6, you have permanent brain damage, right? You have stroke patients. We have, that we respond to. We can provide definitive care much faster and get them to RGH or Strong. We had a horrible accident on 104 the other day, right? The response time to Strong after a 9-minute extrication, within 20 minutes, they're at the hospital, right? This is what it's all about. And so I think, it's important for people to understand, a little bit more about EMS, because I feel everyone knows what a fireman does. Everyone knows what the sheriffs or the Webster police do. Very few people fully understand we're not ambulance drivers, right? We are the emergency room coming to your doorstep. And, I get calls every weekend from people who say, your bill's too high. I said, take my bill, go to an emergency room. That's a $10,000 visit. Why don't you care? Because you pay $200 of that, right? You don't see the background. You just see the copay. In my case, especially in Penfield, because we do intercepts with West Webster Ambulance, who cannot bill. So in that case, the patient gets the full burden of the bill for the ALS intercept. And they call and say, we got a $1,000 bill. I said, well, in that $1,000, I came to your house in 4 minutes. I gave you a 12-lead EKG, which is about $1,500. I read that EKG like a cardiologist, which is another few thousand. I drew your blood. I checked your sugar. I did I gave you medicines. I started an IV, right? I did all those things. I gave you $8,000 worth of care in the time it took you to go to the hospital. Oh, and by the way, you then cut the line at the hospital because you get treatment faster. And when you walk people through that, they don't know because they just see this bill. And for the Medicare, Medicaid patients, the bill comes to them because West Webster doesn't bill, they get the full burden. And so that's why towns like Penfield support us with our tax district, because there's a gap, right? There's a funding gap that has to be covered. Every overdose we go to, they're not paying the bill, right? There's no health insurance behind that. There's no address to chase them down. That's $1,000. And not only is it $1,000 for that call, but it's the opportunity loss of other calls we could be going on which generate revenue. So, we greatly appreciate the town support that you have given us for 30 years here in Penfield. And, we'll be looking for more because the cost of employing EMTs is just going through the roof, right? You look at the minimum wage in the state of New York, we're having to compete with Starbucks to get people to do an awful job. It's hard to do. We are having staffing shortages in every EMS agency in the area. The equipment is going up, right? Recently, 3 or 4 years ago, we had to buy new LifePak defibrillators. They were $35,000 a piece to be compliant with the standards. It's not like you can say, well, get them when we can afford it. You need them. Fly cars break down, ambulance, fuel is going up, health insurance. More and more of our EMTs and paramedics are coming on as full-timers because this is their living. We can't ask a guy to dedicate their life to helping you and not offer them health insurance. Well, that's $600 a month, right? So all of these costs continue to go up. And what we find is the health insurance reimbursements go down, the population is aging, so the number of Medicare, Medicaid calls goes up, and we're having this closing gap, right? And at some point when the gap goes upside down, agencies don't survive. And, it only takes 5 minutes to Google. We are closing an EMS agency a week in the state of New York. That's where Mike and I were before tonight, just in Wayne County. There are agencies that aren't figuring out how to get their ambulances on the road, right? But when you're 25 minutes away from a hospital in Wayne County, waiting for mutual aid out of Finger Lakes is not going to do it, right? So we've got to find a way to solve this problem, and we're working on it, right? But that's why we appreciate you letting us tell our story here a little bit tonight. A few other things of relevance, and we'll just take any questions you may have. Call volume has gone up 7% this year over year. We expect it to increase as the population ages. We continue to maintain 4 fully staffed fly cars. We now have 5 fully staffed ambulances, fully equipped ambulances, so that we staff 2 a day. We continue to do all kinds of community events. So in the Walmart, there's a farmer's market. We send a fly car there. We're doing blood pressure screenings. We are trying to increase that level of activity. So if there are places you want us, we do free standbys. We think that's part of our community service. We do the Garlic Festival at North Ponds. We do every Webster School sporting event. So in the town of Penfield, you've got the Plank Road schools and some of the others. We go there. Our philosophy as the board is the ambulance is being paid, let them be in the community, let the community experience us as opposed to sitting and waiting for calls. And our medics, I think, enjoy it because they get to go out and see kids, they get to go out and see members of the community, and people understand a little bit more about what we do. We're taking autism awareness training so we can learn how to work with children with special needs on the ambulance. We recently started a training division by one of our paramedics, and in the first 6 months of the year, we've trained 250 citizens in the town on CPR, first aid, and AED use. That is vital because when the event happens, they're there first. They're the first link in the chain of survival. So the more citizens that we can train, the better it is for all of us. We recently participated in the Stop the Bleed training with Strong here at the Bayview Y and at the YMCA up on 250, the Eastway, what do we call that?
East Side.
East Side YMCA. And, I think the only other really relevant topic is we're looking for a home, right? So we have been nomads, as we say, for many years. NEQ was founded by a collaboration of the West Webster, and Union Hill Fire Departments. We lived in their fire stations for a while until they got renovated. We lived in pole barns. Right now we live in a 2-bay garage, which is not how you want the person who's here to save your life to come. We have no bedrooms, we have no kitchen, because we're in commercial garage space. So working with the town of Webster, we are we think, close to getting ready to announce where our final landing will be. It may be right up Jackson Road at 10:30, or it might be up by Barrett Drive. We'll see. But we need a base, right? We need a place where not only can our staff rest and recuperate, because some of these calls are good, right? No one ever calls us on a good day. Every call is an emotionally taxing call. But more importantly, and probably as importantly, we want to interact with the community more, right? Fire departments have great open houses. EMS, we're not really good at that. I want people to come to us for blood pressure screenings. I want them to come and bring their kids and see what an ambulance does. I want them to take CPR and AED classes in a place that's set up in an environment much like this. Because the more people know about what we do, the more help we get when we need it in the field. And it's a matter of minutes, right? So I hope that helps. Are there any questions I can answer?
No, I think it's been a big help, Matt. I think that's something that is very important, I think, for our residents to understand, because a lot of times, obviously more you than us, but we'll hear, you know, why are we being charged for this? Aren't they a volunteer organization? You know, my parents always knew it as a volunteer, fully volunteer organization, but yet I'm getting bills and things like that. So I think the opportunity to be out in the community, I think, is key. That education definitely is key. But most important, that I think that all of us should appreciate is the fact of how fortunate we are to have such great services in our community. And on this side of the county, we are just very fortunate to not only have the equipment, but the trained personnel and the care and compassion that you folks bring. I've had the opportunity, our family's had the opportunity to call on the ambulance several times, and I will tell you, I am absolutely delighted that we've got that resource in our community, because it does make a difference.
No, thank you. And, you know, I wish Penfield, we should have brought Dan Reardon tonight, but, you know, the collaboration in our side of town is very good. When we started WEMS, and we needed to make sure we had mutual aid agreements, you know, West Webster stepped up, Dan Reardon and Penfield Ambulance were there to help. You know, Northeast Joint Fire Service was there, Ontario Ambulance. You know, we are, you're right, Supervisor LaFountain. I mean, you come from an EMS background, a first response background in your former career, I remember. And it's not that way throughout the community. We just left a meeting tonight where the fire and EMS don't talk, you know, the police don't come to help. In Penfield, if the average citizen knew, you know, how many times we go to the dialysis center, to Walmart, to Hillhaven, we show up, there's a fire truck, there's an ambulance, there's a paramedic, the sheriffs in our part of, we joke with them. We're like, guys, slow down. We'd like to give the medicine once in a while, right? They are so good. You know, I've written letters to the sheriff many times commending the deputies that come. The fire response with Penfield, West Webster, you know, here, we are very fortunate. The average citizen, I don't think fully appreciates what a tough job it is to do, how underappreciated I think some of our responders are. But you know, we are lucky. We live in a very, very fortunate part of the world. It's not that way everywhere, even within our county.
Yes, agreed. Board questions for Ahmed?
No, thank you for coming, and thanks
No,
for all
thanks
you
for the
do.
time. I appreciate it.
And let's make this a at least
Quarterly?
a quarterly event that we have the opportunity to go through. I think that's very important, and I think it would also be good you know, to have Penfield as well. We could do same nights or different nights, but again, you guys, and I think I want to just again underscore the fact that the relationship that you guys do have, not only the fire, the police, but other EMS agencies, because that's really what makes it work.
Yeah, that's right.
If everybody's operating in their own little world and on their own little island, everybody suffers for that, and I think that's what makes it so special with the things that you do, the work that you guys do, the collaboration and things like that. That definitely makes all the difference overall. So for that, I say thank you not only to you know, you, but also your counterparts that make that happen in fire and police.
Yeah, well, thank you. And you know, when you post the notes up, feel free to share our contact information. It's neqals.org. If people, especially in the northern part, so we don't want to interfere with Penfield Ambulance's space, but you know, the Walmarts, you're doing the farmers markets, if there are places even here where you'd like CPR taught, if there are events at schools, please reach out. Supervisor LaFountain knows exactly how to get a hold of me. We want EMS to be more engaged in the community. I think we've kind of kept ourselves in the shadows for a long time. We provide a vital service, and when you think about it, of the fire, police, and EMS, our call volume is just growing dramatically. The number of fire calls for fires is declining because of fire prevention is working, right? But we're getting older and, challenges in the world. Please, let us know where we can help, and we'll be there.
Excellent.
All right?
Excellent.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Mike, thank you very much for taking time out of your schedules. We appreciate it, and thanks for all the service.
Thank you. Good night.
All right, be well. Okay, seeing no other public participation and seeing no other business to come before the board, the August 21st, 2019 legislative session of the board will stand adjourned at 7:41. Thank you for everyone that participated. Thank you to Penfield TV.